This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, your pop culture home.
Yeah, Frank here has got his own billiard room.
Yes, it's what do you call it, Kramer?
Billiard room.
No, not billiard, not the billiards. It was
billiards room.
Come on already. Come on, we call it the
place to be.
The place to be. Yes, the place to be.
Then I shall be there.
Now, it's time. Live and in living color.
The Grandy Man can.
Time to play the game!
Well, you always left me satisfied and smiling, so...
That's what she said.
Why do I want this? I want to make bank, bro. I want to get ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Place to Be Nation, Scott Criscola and Justin Rosero. This is the Place to Be podcast.
Very nice, Mr. Crisbola.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
D'Lo Brown interfered with a frog splash and hit it on Severn, getting some revenge.
I know.
What the hell was it? What was that laugh? It was like an old cartoon fucking Hanna-Barbera dog or something. It was like Snidely. Was that the fucking dog that laughed like that?
JR's got a little more time than I do to sit and actually write a whole show.
This is the third time you said it to me today now. I'm really curious.
Well, I'm not saying that you have nothing to do. I'm just saying
I'm curious how I have more free time than you. What does that mean? I don't know. I know it's been a rough, and I'm not used to this long, grueling podcast schedule.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Are you guys just joking around for the next hour?
Fun. Did you say D'Amato, late 20s, 30s? And you included yourself in that as well?
I was being nice to him. I am still technically in my 30s.
I think they might hit a shock wall.
Fuck is a shock wall?
Is that the Shockmaster's wall?
He's gonna fall through the shock wall.
Yeah, I like Big Dick myself. PTB Nation. Let me know what
Here's our opener.
To do worse than Josh Richards.
Cartier, Sidney Poitier, Horatio. Go with all of my numbers from around the waist. When I come through, your people know I do my thing, bring motion to generate money. Cha-ching. Arrest you, lyrically, flow will caress you. Bless you, then my brother come to your rescue. Why you assuming that I blossom and bloom? I'm coming soon, hit you with a boom, give me some room. You people had enough? Give me some more. You people want the wild head? Give me some more. Your split with a G's at? Give me some more. You know we always need that? Give me some more. Even though we getting money, you can give me some more. With the cars and a big crib? Give me some more. Everybody spread love. Give me some more. If you want it, let me hear you say. Give me some more. Yo, live brothers, you know what I mean? They represent why we getting money and reign supreme. Hope your suckers will be coming through full steam. Can't see me, better turn on your high beam.
Place to Be Nation. Welcome back to another great episode of the one and only Place to Be podcast. I am your co-host, Justin Rosero, coming at you live on this Monday evening inside the PTB Man Cave, back at it with another vintage vault and a big one. Who's going to be closing out one of the most prosperous, entertaining years in World Wrestling Federation entertainment history. To do that, I need to bring in my one and only Mr. PIC, Mr. Scott Criscola. How are you?
Good evening, JR. How are you on this fine? We got into the mode of
Columbus Day?
Well, that too. Yeah, like either of us. Well, did you take off today, or did you have off?
I took it off.
Yeah, because I know markets were open today. So
yeah, with the weekend I had planned, I figured it'd be best to take it off. And
we won't discuss that in public forums. We'll talk more about that.
I'd say it was a very VKM-esque weekend.
I'm sure he was invited
with the guys. Let's just say Mr. Flanagan still dominates Rotella style when needed.
Ah, good
at the certain establishments, but it was a good time. We rented wanted to drive safe.
Yes,
of course. We had a DD, our buddy Roger. And we rented a van, and they gave us a gold van, 12-passenger thing, and this thing was fucking, like, souped up. We were definitely pimping, driving through, went to Boneheads, parking.
Seriously, the van was gold?
Yeah. It was like fucking Goldust car, that's what I felt like. Parked that hog outside of, down in Arctic, outside of Boneheads.
Oh, jeez.
It's a good time.
I'm surprised I think if we do enough press and enough, good relationship with, Boneheads, I think eventually we should have. I know they go by songs, but we should probably,
get our own wing there.
Wing flavor named after us.
Well, I did. I talked to because I was there Friday night with just Charlie, and because I had to have him try it clean before we went in there with a group of guys doing whatever. And so we went at 8, and I was talking to the owner Matt, and I said, we'll be back tomorrow night with 8 guys. He's like, oh, okay, I'll put a table down for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So he reserved us 2 high tops, and so we come in, and the thing says reserved, as I posted on the live chats, reserved for Richard and the Mailman. Nice. So they're the real stars there. I'm like third potato, even though it's my face he recognizes the most. So I talked to finally the lovely lady that runs the Twitter page. So I chatted with her a little bit, and she is a massive fan
Oh, great.
of Richard the Mailman.
Oh.
Like, big time. Like, she was gushing over the show. Really digging it. So it's good to know.
All right. Well,
she was a big fan. She said she enjoyed the Breaking Bad. She loves the mentions we give. And I name dropped a little bit in there, and I said, maybe we can get a little more co-promotion going. And she goes, definitely.
okay, good.
Boneheads on board.
And living
Place
large.
to be Nation.
Yes. And hopefully we'll have another big turnout, possibly Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps. We'll have to continue discussing that. Welcome, PTB Nation. You are there. This isn't an AB. See everybody. Episode 261 of the Place to Be podcast. And JR, you and I are pretty good because we have gotten the symmetry down that we get to the double zeros close to the end of years, beginning of New Year's. I think it works out for us. You being a big fan of holidays and whatnot. Mm-hmm. We go through Christmas and New Year's, and then New Year's we hit. We had 100 in what was it? Maybe early February of 2012.
Yep.
And then 200 was mid to late January of this year, and we're coming up on 300. I mean,
no, I hope it's into January because I don't want to get involved with our Christmas specials. You know.
No. I mean, well, let's see, 39 episodes, 38 between now and the end of the year.
Okay.
I think we'll get past the New Year.
Okay.
38 episodes is a lot. I know there's still 10 weeks left in the year. Right, 10 or 11. So even if it's 11 weeks left in the year times 2, that's 22 episodes. So we definitely are going to get past 2014. Cool. So I think we're safe. Anyway, let's worry about 300 down the line. It's 261 tonight on Club. Mm-hmm. For those that had today off, hope you enjoyed your day off. JR and I did not. Dr. G had off.
I was
Mrs.
off.
G
I took it off. We just went over.
I mean, your company, but you had to take it off. You had to
whatever then.
Eat a day.
Still
but you were
home.
off. Yes, that's true. Dr. G had off. Mrs. G did not, and I know a few others did as well. But I get so annoyed. This is my little pet peeve. I know you have a lot of customer service and human being pet peeves. But this morning I get on the highway about 20 after 8. I got to be in by like 10 of 9 roughly. My in time is flexible, and the highway was kind of dead. So I thought, this isn't bad. I'm sure a lot of people took off. Trains are back in if anybody took the train. So I'm like, all right, so the drive home won't be bad. Now, I got gas, so I couldn't take my back roads through the towns to get to the house. So I actually got on the highway thinking, it ain't going to be too bad today. It was a parking lot. Where the fuck were all you people this morning? False sense of security, goddammit. The hell were all you people? I talked to people that were on the highway 6:45 this morning, and it was dead. So where the hell were all of you today? Yikes. Ugh. Anyway.
As Jay-Z and the Orphans sang, it's a hard knock life.
It's a hard knock life, exactly. It is not a hard knock life tonight, because
Hey, what is going on here?
Beef and cheese. I have to do that at least once. How are you, Mr. Principal? Air the sucker out. Ooh. Tonight, we, of course, when you hear the principal's voice, it means that we are inside the Vintage Vault. And tonight, as JR mentioned, we cap off one of the most lucrative years in, we can still say it technically, World Wrestling Federation history. Because tonight, JR, your boy, your Olympic hero, and I'll say it the VKM way, goes through hell.
I like how they show like kamikaze pilots. A little intense.
Yes. A tremendous song. Not the last time you will hear it here on the Place to Be podcast.
No, definitely not. But also interesting, one of our they'll slip these in there every now and then where the opening video is just music.
Yes.
It's like our
just
second or
music.
third one this year.
Yeah, and just music and clearly just video shots of the 6 participants of tonight's main event. What that main event is, I'll let you know later.
And what
Tonight,
it isn't.
and what it isn't. Tonight, inside the Vintage Vault on the Place to Be podcast, we bring you Armageddon Show 2000. And I bet you a lot of people, JR, may not remember the undercard. Everyone knows the main event and all the filler. The only bad part about the show is the filler. We'll get to that. But the undercard is not too bad. Not too bad at all. And the announcing was good as well.
Always.
Well,
And not for much longer, but
not for much longer, yeah.
Well,
things change. Well, it goes in a dip and then
no, it gets good soon, and then it dies.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. But we have a great undercard, and of course we have a controversial in some people's eyes main event.
Mm-hmm.
So we shall see. December 10th, 2000, live from the Jefferson Civic Center in Birmingham, Alabama. For the first time, JR, we are in Crimson Tide country.
Yes, and a young
paper.
Chad Campbell was in the house on this night.
Yes. Little young Chadley.
Cross state lines.
Mm-hmm.
Headed over to the show.
Birmingham.
And I guess while we're speaking of Chad, we should just mention,
Mm-hmm.
again, we talked about this last week.
Yes.
Before we do a Vintage Vault on PlaceToBeNation.com, Chad's going to do a Vintage Vault preview. He picks one match from the card, watches it, and gives an analytical breakdown in the Campbell style we all know and love.
Yep.
And today he reviewed the main event. So if you want to pause this, go over quick and read it, feel free. It's a quick read, and the match is right there for you to enjoy as well. So, Mr. Chad Campbell's Vintage Vault preview, only on PlaceToBeNation.com.
Yes, he does an awesome job. Well done, Chadley. JR.
Chad does an awesome job.
New building, so give us a little history, JR. I have a feeling this building's probably fairly old.
Well, it broke ground 1974, so I guess what you consider old, what we consider old,
Older,
I
I guess.
is young to you. But
Yeah.
Opened 1976, owned by the city of Birmingham. Architect Geddes, Brecher, Qualls, and Cunningham.
Woohoo!
Sounds good. Concerts hold about 19,000, basketball 17,654, and we have a handful of teams that play there. The Alabama Steel Dogs of the AF2 play there for 7 years. The Birmingham Bulls of the WHA. The Birmingham Bulls of the CHL. The Birmingham Bulls of the ECHL. Very original in this town. The UAB Blazers men's basketball.
Yes.
Played there for 12 years until 1988. We also had the COGIC Auxiliaries and Ministry Convention. I'm sure that's something you attended in 2012. AIM. And the AHSAA Finals. 48 championships are there every year.
Mm-hmm.
Did the Birmingham Bolts play there? The
Bolts.
XFL?
Well, no, they didn't play indoors. Let's say an arena football. Well, you already did the AFL teams.
Yeah.
Or AFL2, whatever it was.
There were 3 episodes of Nitro, an episode of Thunder, 4 episodes of Raw will be there eventually, 7 episodes of SmackDown, and other live events as well.
Oh, I'm sure it was there. They were there for TV tapings back in the day. And
also the site of ECW Guilty as Charged earlier this year, I believe, in 2000.
We'll talk more about ECW over the next few shows. And WCW, for that matter. What was the attendance for wrestling, JR? Did it say? Or was it just for concerts?
Yeah, just concerts about 19,000. So
Okay.
This is either short of a sellout or just really configured differently. But that's also modern day, so I'm sure they've probably renovated since 2000.
Your attendance, official attendance, 14,920. Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The buy rate, really good, JR, for a December pay-per-view, 1.15. That's really good.
Yep.
For a December show.
Well, I mean, this is a loaded main event.
Yeah, it is. It is. And your announcers, let's say your opponents, your announcers, as always, the voices of the Attitude Era, good old JR, Jim Ross, and Jerry the King Lawler.
Now, Scott, there was a show in between our last outing at Survivor Series and the show here, and that was Rebellion.
Yes.
From the Sheffield Arena in Sheffield, England, December 2nd, 2000. Let me quickly give you the results there. The Dudleys defeated Edge and Christian in TNA in an elimination tables match. Ivory defeated Lita. Steve Blackman defeated Perry Saturn to retain the Hardcore Championship. Crash Holly defeated William Regal. And looks like he actually Did he win the European Championship? Okay.
Yes, he
And then
did.
Regal
He
won
did
it
win
back.
the European title. Yep.
China and Billy Gunn defeated Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero. Kane defeated Chris Jericho. Bull Buchanan and The Godfather retained their tag titles against the Hardy Boys.
You mean the
I'm sorry, The Good Father.
The Good Father.
Wikipedia has it wrong. Undertaker defeated Chris Benoit in 12 minutes.
Ugh.
And Kurt Angle defeated Rikishi, Steve Austin, and The Rock in a fatal four-way in 8:50. So kind of a short match times here. It really only two matches over 10 minutes.
Taker couldn't even job in another fucking country, in another continent.
Well, I kind of get that, though. I mean, whatever. They're trying to give him the pop over, and
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people went to see him.
Yeah, I think you could. I don't know if they ever put it on like the redo. I don't know if it's on like the Attitude Era collection
Rebellion?
DVDs. Yeah. I don't know if it's on one of those, or you could probably get it on VHS. I would think. To check the history of WWE.com and our man Graham Cawthon, see if it's actually on it. Pretty sure it's on VHS. They released all those eventually somewhere. So, we did have Sunday Night Heat. Anything pertinent, JR, on our pregame?
Yes, we had one match, and that was Scotty 2 Hotty of Too Cool defeated D'Lo Brown, a Lowdown.
Lowdown.
And Lowdown had a little different gimmick going on. They adopted Tiger Ali Singh, if you remember him. All the way back from, like One Night Only? The last time I saw him on pay-per-view.
Pretty much, yeah.
Maybe a couple rumbles in there. But he came in as managing them now, and they're wearing the turbans, and they all talk about being disrespected. Because if you remember, that was the whole thing, how Lowdown was being disrespected by the company. So
Right.
Tiger Ali Singh, and now their manager.
So let us dive right in. A lot of issues, a lot of between-match segments that ate up a boatload of time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the one of the few bones of contention of this show. A lot of not unnecessary Phil, but probably not the right choices for Phil. Probably could have done something a little. Hey, you're part of this. In fact, you were on one of these Phils. All right, we begin, JR, with a 6-man elimination match. Wow. 1 month after the last elimination show, the Survivor Series, we have an elimination match.
Mm-hmm.
And fun backstory here. Your team, your heroes, the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff, and their girl, Lita, taking on 3/4 of the Radicals, Eddie Guerrero, who, by the way, JR, no longer World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Champion.
Mm-hmm.
We will talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
Perry Saturn, and of course, your World Wrestling Federation Light Heavyweight Champion, Dean Malenko.
Still trucking with that belt.
Yes.
So Malenko actually picked up a new gimmick lately, and he kind of a ladies' man.
Well, James Bondish.
Yeah, a little fan of the ladies. The ladies liked him.
Mm-hmm.
One lady, however, rejected his coming-ons,
His amorous advances.
and that was Alita. Of course, Malenko was smitten, and Lita was getting a little aggravated with it. So on the 12-4 Raw, Malenko made a deal. He said, Lita, if I win, we go on a date. If you win, I'll leave you the hell alone. Malenko would win the match, and due to pre-match stipulation, they had their date on the 12-7 SmackDown. Your PIC's 20th birthday right here.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
After dinner and some sexy innuendo proceeded, the couple headed to a hotel room. Lita had some very smoking hot lingerie on. Dean turns up the lights. Lita said she likes to do it with the lights on. When the lights were turned back on, the Hardys were standing there, and Jeff crushed Dean with a champagne bottle, and Matt hit him with the lamp. So that was pretty much the only build here, and then Saturn and Eddie just kind of back up Dean. What did you think about this whole feud? Did you like Lita mixing up with the guys? Do you think it was believable on any level? And what did you think would be the result heading in?
I think Lita mixing it up with the guys was perfect. She wrestles kind of a more physical style than most of the women on the roster. There's a couple that could mix it up with guys. Obviously, Chyna. We'll talk about her later because she ends up mixing it up with one of the guys. The storyline is fantastic. Lita was the perfect one to be involved in this thing with Dean, because he was very, she was kind of that hardcore kind of alternative lifestyle kind of girl, and he was very, suave and savoir-faire, as Jesse used to say. And I think it worked perfectly. I think it worked great. I love first of all, did she look amazing in that fucking white lingerie or what?
Yeah.
Oof.
It was like you were having flashbacks to Samantha Gray in the plaid shorts.
Yes. But I thought it worked perfectly. I thought it worked absolutely perfectly. And the match itself was pretty good. A little over 8 minutes if you count all the eliminations, which I will give to you now. Jeff Hardy pinned Eddie Guerrero with the Swanton at 257. Eddie was in not the best of places at the moment in his life. He was suffering apparently from a nagging hamstring injury, but he was also dealing with some other personal issues as well, which we'll document over the next couple
Right, the hamstring injury, still the injury, remember, he suffered way back before even, like, No Mercy.
Yeah. So it's still,
right.
You can still tell it's bugging him. So Jeff pins him with the Swanton at 257, but then Jeff ends up getting pinned. Vince probably didn't know who they were. Perry Saturn pins Jeff with the DVD at 341, the Death Valley Driver.
Do you think it was a quick pin for Jeff?
Yes, I think it was 341. He barely got 45 seconds after getting the pin on. I thought this match as a whole was too short.
Yeah,
too many good workers here. And again, here's the problem: they got all this unnecessary gunk in the middle. This match could have been at least another 6 minutes, or maybe not that long. Maybe 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah,
you got 6 good workers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why you couldn't just extend this a little bit and get rid of some of the fluff. So Jeff Saturn sounds like a fucking 94 jobber. And here's Bam Bam Bigelow taking on Jeff Saturn.
Sounds like a car dealership.
Yeah.
So head down to Jeff Saturn's Saturn dealership.
Oh, geez. We sell the best plastic cars in the lot.
Come on down to John Saturn's this weekend for a Columbus Day sale.
John, is that his brother?
Jeff
Saturn, his brother
Jeff
John.
Saturn, that's right.
John's Maseratis. All right, so Perry Saturn gets pinned by Matt with the Twist of Fate.
Yeah, that sounds like a steakhouse. Where you going this weekend? Oh, we have a nice dinner at Jeff Saturn's lined up.
Oh, God. And then Perry gets pinned by Matt with the Twist of Fate. Then Matt gets pinned 20-something seconds later with the by Dean with a roll-up. So, of course, obviously makes sense. So that's what I'm saying, JR. 5.5 minutes of pins? Can we have a little something going on here?
I don't do any tricks.
Didn't need any.
Well, the thing, and the thing, too, is that it's false prey to the whole stupid elimination match theory in Survivor Series theory that it's like these guys are more prone to being pinned easily in matches like this. It's always been kind of one of those wrestling pet peeves. Like, how come just because these guys are in a Survivor style match means they can get pinned by a clothesline when normally they wouldn't?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess if there's ever a time in wrestling where it was maybe a little believable, it was like this 98, 99, 2000 stretch when the Raw matches were pretty quick, so kind of led to it a little. But yeah, still weird to see all these guys go down. Obviously not a surprise that Eddie went out only because we know of the injury. I mean, if you didn't know about that, then it would be really surprising.
Right.
But yeah, you knew it was going to come down to Dean and Lita. And they give them 3 minutes.
Yeah, they did. And they look good. I mean, Lita put some good moves on, the couple of Hurricane Ranas, and Dean sold them well. Crowd was pretty hot.
I like that. He wrenched in that cloverleaf.
Yeah, he torqued her. But he was beating the snot out of her. He actually lifted her head up a couple times and decided to poo-poo pinfall attempts.
Were you surprised they had him beat her clean?
No. You need to keep him strong. Well,
not really.
Keeping him strong.
This is weird. I thought for sure they would have.
Lita win, man.
Get her comeuppance. I mean, I guess they kind of laid Dean out on SmackDown, so.
Yeah. It was a little strange. Yeah, a little strange. And then Dean cranks the cloverleaf. I mean, he bends her over and she taps pretty quick. He doesn't let go of it. It was pretty vicious, which is pretty much what Dean is. One thing I noticed about this show, JR, is that I feel like a lot of guys were allowed to go back to some of their older personalities. Like, I feel this pay-per-view, you saw the 4 Radicals, including the 4th one, who was in action a little bit later, kind of go back to their WCW personas slightly. So even though Dean was in this, kind of Roger Moore, Sean Connery Bond thing, he still in the ring was a killer.
Right.
And he showed it. Yeah, it was against Lita, but I think that was the whole point of being the heel and everything. And he torques her in the cloverleaf, and she taps pretty quick, a little over 8 minutes.
And I think it's a good point about the Radicals, because it's almost like we had this dip in the middle of the year, and now they're back together and back to doing what they probably should have been doing in the beginning. And
right.
They look better here. This is probably the best they've looked as a unit. I mean, remember, they jobbed a lot early on.
Yeah.
At No Way Out, WrestleMania, and everything else. They were on the losing end whenever they were a team. So this is really the strongest they've looked as a unit ever since they reunited in November now. So we've had 2 straight shows of them just dismantling people as a team.
Yeah, I agree. And Dean looked very strong here in taking Lita out. So Dean Malenko, your sole survivor, and his team wins the match in a little over 8 minutes. And it was very good. It was a good opener. It kind of got the crowd going, but we could have gone for, I could have gone for another 4 minutes.
Right.
And got rid of some of this fluff that's in the middle, which we'll talk about. All right. Speaking of fluff, we get kind of a little bit of fluff here, but not really. Your World Wrestling Federation champion, Kurt Angle, being interviewed by Lillian Garcia. And he's doing Hindu squats. Very extensive.
I think you should start doing Hindu squats for every error you make on the show.
He's not going to be made famous because he already is. After that, we get a clip from a match that we talked about earlier in the pay-per-view year, JR, and they show like pretty much the whole match spread out over 2.5 hours, and that is the Hell in a Cell from No Way Out back in Hartford, where I was at, between Triple H and Mick Foley, just to talk about the barbarism of the Cell, which I got to be honest with you, JR, as much as the storyline was a little stupid, I do like the fact that they were really, for the first time in a while, I guess. It's something that I think has been lost in the last few years with the Cell. They're really taking the Cell seriously as a career ender, which it needs to be, because in my opinion it is. It's the gimmick that can end you.
And two in a year in 2000 here.
Yes, not the last time that'll happen.
Nope.
But yes.
So how many did we have? 99? We've
had five. We've had 5 official Cell matches. We've had Bad Blood 97, the 2 TV ones, or was there only one in 98?
There were 2 Raw ones. So it was a tag and then the singles.
The singles. So 3. None in 99. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 in 99. Yeah. Taker and
and then it depends if you want to count Kennel in a Cell or not.
Yeah, Kennel and Cell was like a hybrid, so no, we won't count that. I don't think Al Snow wants to count it either. And 2 this year, so I guess 6 Cell matches to this point. This is the 6th Hell in a Cell match. But I feel like on this night, they really made it out like it was a career ender. And we'll continue on with that theme in a little bit. So, Kurt Angle, everyone obviously clear underdog against these other stud opponents who we'll talk about later. All right, our next match is our first title match of the evening, JR. The World Wrestling Federation European Championship is on the line. And we talked while you were going over the Rebellion pay-per-view results. We did have a new European champion over the last month since Survivor Series. As you mentioned, Crash Holly upset William Regal in, where was it, Sheffield?
Yeah.
In Sheffield at Rebellion. However, that must have been a Saturday night, obviously. That's where usually the British pay-per-views are. And then 2 nights later, though, on the 12-4 Raw, Regal won the title back. Now, of course, at the Survivor Series, Regal defeated Crash's cousin Hardcore by DQ because Hardcore lost his mind. And after the win over Crash on Raw that December 4th, Regal applied the Regal stretch on his cousin Molly until Hardcore came in to make the save. And then on SmackDown, your birthday, Holly put Regal to sleep with a sleeper hold in a tag match.
Interesting.
So here we go.
So now, it made sense, too, for Holly to get the rematch here.
Yes.
Because they're in his hometown, his home state, Alabama. Yep. So that was kind of the, whenever they roll through Alabama, they give Holly a little bit of push. If you remember last time, back in 1997, on Raw from Alabama, he got a title shot with Owen Hart.
That's right.
So kind of a callback to that. But so it made sense.
Yep. Now, continuing the gimmick of dogging crowds, Regal is giving the business to the fine, upstanding Southerners of the Crimson Tide State. The match, not really much, a little under 5 minutes, pretty pedestrian. Regal snaps off a couple nice moves. He puts Holly in a bow and arrow, hits a butterfly suplex. Then there's that one stretch. I think he was going to try and hit another butterfly suplex, and I think Holly, I know what he does. I'm just not sure what movie. I can't remember what movie he was attempting. If you can help me out here, JR. Do you remember when Hardcore Holly lifted Regal and had him on his back upside down? I'm trying to remember what movie he was trying. I think he was trying to butterfly suplex again, and Hardcore Holly kind of stood upright.
Yeah.
And had Regal upside down on his back, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yep.
But we have a run-in, which still kind of perplexed me.
Well, I think it was a guy that needed something to do, and that's Raven. Comes in and DDTs Holly, obviously setting up a feud, I guess. And Regal gets the win clean there after that. I shouldn't say clean, but... Raven, his thing with Taz kind of blew up. They were working as a team, and then they had their issues. They had a match. Raven beat him, and then Taz kind of started to really transition over to just being an announcer. He started actually doing backstage interviews on SmackDown, still kind of hosting Heat. So you could tell they were moving him out of the ring. So they split Raven off on his own, and I'm guessing he's kind of sticking him with the hardcore guys. So
Right.
I don't think there's anything more to it other than Raven just being an asshole.
Yeah,
Gets
pretty
interfered here.
Okay. Yeah.
And Regal puts the feud away and moves on as European champion, still kind of trucking along through the mid card.
Yes. Yeah. So William Regal retains his World Wrestling Federation European Championship with a win over Hardcore Holly, thanks to What About Me? What about Raven? So Raven with the DDT. We get a great, although the copy I watched on YouTube today, JR, didn't have these. I don't know why. Must have been some other version that somebody took off TV, but there is a great promo promoting the new and upcoming Extreme Football League, featuring the voice of the league, the Body, Jesse Ventura, stressing the differences from conventional football to putting over the uniqueness of the league. And we'll kind of document, JR, throughout the 2001 pay-per-views. We'll document the week by week games and standings, because you and I are both big marks for the XFL.
Outside the ring. This guy's a lunatic. I don't like him. He goes by his own rules. He don't listen to nothing.
He's talking about, what is his name, Rusty Tillman?
Yes, Rusty Tillman.
Yes. I'm getting under his skin, JR. Oh, yeah, we definitely are going to do that. Yes. When the XFL season starts, JR and I, when we do every pay-per-view, we'll do a little XFL recap of what's going on in the league at that time. All right. After that, we get our next match, and another intergender match, as China takes on our first member of the evening from the RTC, the Right to Censor, and that is, of course, Mr. Val Venus.
Rhymes with penis.
Which he does not say.
Hmm.
Rhymes with penis. He does not want it to rhyme with penis.
It's funny. There must have been a lot of belief that coming out of Survivor Series, the RTC was going to break up. Because if you read some of CRZ stuff, kind of ranting against the smart community out there, saying, I guess there were a lot of bitching that the RTC was on its way out, the way they were treated at Survivor Series. But still going strong here on this show.
Yes. And we find out eventually who the strongest member of the team is later on, in some people's eyes. So, the previous week on Raw, your boy, the One, defeated Venus with Chyna's help. Chyna and Gunn were attacked by Venus and fellow Right to Censor member Ivory after the match. Later in the night, while Chyna was at ringside announcing with JR and King, Mr. Not Rhymes with Penis came out and attacked Chyna again. Which brings us here. And and I...
They kind of transitioned this one
Yeah.
off of the Eddie stuff.
Yep.
And now it's just kind of Chyna with the RTC.
Yes. Incidentally, gone were the Ice Cream Man pants. He actually wrestled in regular black pants.
Yeah, that was good.
Yes, the ice cream man pants.
Those.
Yes, he did. The Ice Cream Man pants are gone. You and I have different opinions of this match based on our past comments. You didn't give it 5 stars, but you gave it definitely a little more love than I did. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was any worse than Chyna's other best matches, if you consider those. The Road Dogg one and the Jericho ones. A little step behind the Jericho one a year ago at this time, but
Right.
yeah, I thought it was fine. I kind of liked how she had Billy stay backstage and go it alone, and it kind of really, put the emphasis on this being a feud ender, and then Ivory gets involved. And that'll, of course, trigger setting the stage for the top women's feud going into 01. So
Yes.
This is almost a transition point for Chyna to finally move out of the role she's been for 2 years now, 99 and 2000, feuding with men, and finally kind of get into the women's division, something she really hasn't done much of.
No, and probably and which kind of needed her a little bit at this point too. However, more news about Chyna. She, for the first time, was getting a very bad. She's getting a case, JR, of an illness that started to.
Elizabeth Madison disease.
I never heard of that. Sableitis. In other words, the art of acting like a bitch and being very diva-esque. Same thing happened with Sable almost 2 years earlier, or a year and a half earlier, when she got into Playboy and got a little too big for her britches, and she ended up getting an old heave-ho. Well, according to, and I remember Lords of Pain mentioned this a couple of times, I think Cher did, and Mr. Tito on Lords of Pain, that Chyna was starting to get a little big-headed backstage after the Playboy came out. So
I don't know, man. I don't know. She's just acting real funky.
no, more than just funky, Jake. Although you smell funky. She's still put in high-profile storylines, as we discussed JR, and she eventually does make it back into the women's division. But as we see throughout the year, the ego eventually caught up to her. But we'll get to that. Right to Censor keeps piling up wins, though. That great music keeps playing. But no, I didn't see them. I agree with CRZ. I don't know where people were thinking that.
Well, maybe out of this show, a little bit. Because of what happens later. But I don't think coming out of Survivor Series.
Did you think they were breaking up?
No.
I didn't think so either.
You could tell. I think they were starting to slant down their dominance a little bit. And actually, in a way, after this show ends, you could argue that Ivory's the head honcho of this thing.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was saying earlier. I said I feel like there's a new leader, and that leader is her, and she's back. She's here later on, along with the rest of RTC. So Val Venus does not rhyme with that word. Defeats China.
Say it.
No, he does not.
Say it.
He does not want it said.
Say it.
He says it's dirty. He says it rhymes with.
The hell is this shit?
Hey, stop it, Jake.
Rhymes with weenus.
Wheatus. Sound like a D2 quarterback. Everett Wheatus.
Brad Weenus.
Brad Weenus threw for 505 yards and 5 touchdowns. All right. So there you go. Val Venus gets the win over China. All right. Now here's
you gotta take Brad Weenus seriously when he's matriculating his way down the field. Picked up 507 yards today. And he's going out for a nice dinner at Jeff Saturn's later to celebrate.
Yes. And because of his appearance on our post-game show, Wheatus gets a $100 gift certificate to Jeff Saturn's Steakhouse. And a free test drive at his brother John Saturn's BMW.
Is it like Little Giants, where one of the brothers is like the king of the town, the other one just owns he's got the big car dealership and don't.
Yes.
Do they both own car dealerships? They do, right?
I think they do, yeah.
Rick Moranis has a small shitty one. Ed O'Neill's got the awesome one.
The big one, yeah.
Icebox.
I think it's funny that the Giants were the little scrubs and the Cowboys are the bad guys. It's kind of like all baseball movies. Usually the Yankees are always the bad guy team,
right.
Except one or two movies. It's just the way it is. All right. All right, so we go back to another clip from No Way Out when Triple H fought Mick Foley, as we feel like we watched the entire match on this show.
Right.
Then backstage, oh, by the way, making his first appearance on camera on pay-per-view. He's been on regular free TV, but his first appearance on pay-per-view since, what, King of the Ring?
Yeah. He left right at the night after King of the Ring. He left.
Yep. Vincent Kennedy McMahon with his evil heel cane. Comes out and
had he just had surgery? Is that what that was?
I'm trying to remember what the cane was for. I was hoping they would mention it on the show, and they really didn't. Did he have real surgery on his knee or something? Well, answer the question then.
He must have. I'm guessing.
Knee replacement, maybe?
No, I don't think he ever. He always had problems with his coccyx and everything else.
Coccyx, yeah.
I don't know.
Val Venus says knock it off.
I can't remember what it was, but they didn't do anything on TV, so it had to be legit, whatever it was.
Something serious, yeah, exactly. Anyway, he comes out and, oh my God, Briscoe and Patterson doing their best ass-kissing impersonations or telling them about Mick Foley. The whole premise of tonight's of the show is that Mick Foley put together this incendiary, barbaric main event, which we'll discuss later, and causing great harm to the company because you're putting your 6 biggest money guys in one match, and careers could end, et cetera, and Vince was not happy with it and wanted to end the match, not have the match happen. Meanwhile, Vince runs into his daughter Stephanie, pleading with her father to stop the match tonight, the main event, for her husband's health. Of course, he's one of the 6 participants.
And he almost died and should have died when a car was thrown 8,000 feet in the air.
8,000 feet on his head, and then he comes back 2 weeks later with one Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Fucking stupid. Vince said he's going to go to visit Commissioner Mick Foley, who's, I think he's done an awesome job in this role all year.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And see what's going on and put a stop to this match. Following that, maybe my highlight of the night, I think it was really awesome. For once, The Undertaker was used properly. The Undertaker and our boy Kevin Kelly, and I want to mention this with him when we have him on. What their thoughts were on putting this interview together. They were standing earlier in the day in the empty Jefferson Civic Center in the ring with the cell lowered, and Undertaker goes back to his history of cell matches. Of course, he's been in one, and that was the first one. at Bad Blood 97 with Shawn Michaels. And we get clips of that. I feel like we've watched the whole match. What'd you think of that? I thought finally they used Undertaker properly here. And
yeah, I thought it set the stage well. I mean, him being in this match made sense after everything that's gone on, and he had the most, some of the most experience in a Hell in a Cell. He's been in a bunch of them, so made sense to me.
Yep. Similar to the, for those that remember, the SummerSlam 1994 pre SummerSlam 1994 interviews that Owen Hart did in the cage for his match with his brother Bret.
Yep.
Sitting there with the anvil. Those were awesome as well. Vince and his, I believe he had the blue blazer on. He should have anyway. Then out comes VKM into the ring to talk about the other storyline that's been going on. On the previous Thursday SmackDown, your birthday, Vincent Kennedy McMahon announced he was divorcing his wife Linda.
I want a divorce.
Linda, apparently in kayfabe, was going through a nervous breakdown. She was relieved of duty. Well, we'll talk more about that. That actually doesn't happen yet. But she
couldn't juice his grapefruits anymore.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and there's issues with the board of directors as well. So, Vince is pleading with the audience to not cheer and tell their guy Mick Foley to not have this main event match tonight. And he's telling people, get up and defend it. Get up. And he goes, I said get up. Pretty funny. So there we go.
A lot of filler.
Obviously, this was way too long.
Yeah,
it ran almost 20 minutes. Not needed.
No, I mean
it was needed, but it could have been structured better and shorter.
I mean, it definitely helps add to the gravity of that main event. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like you said, we have other matches that could have used that time wisely. Instead of 20, we probably could have done all that in 8 or 9 minutes. We didn't even need Vince to come out. I mean, they could have had them do that on TV the week before and just replayed it or something quick. And we get the point. Vince doesn't want to have this match. He's been beating over our heads in the last week. I mean, he just returned the Raw before this. So he'd only been on 2 TV shows, and they'd already beaten this gimmick into our heads of why he was there and what he wanted to see. So,
yes, and I think that, like I said, a few minutes could have been added to that opener. We could have added a little something maybe to the even to the to the China Val match. Could have added a couple minutes. They looked like they were going. We tried to salvage a match. In my opinion, you liked it already, but. But yeah, it went on too long. Could have put a match in there. All right. Next up, we have a continuation of a feud that began before Survivor Series.
It's gotta be Kane!
And it is. See if he can beat Y2J Chris Jericho for the second consecutive month. He defeated Jericho.
And he beat him at Rebellion as well.
Yep. And he is 2 for 2 against Jericho. Beat him at Survivor Series in Tampa. And then beat him at Rebellion a couple weeks later in Sheffield, England.
And on December 4th, Jericho had a match with the world champion, and Kane cost him that. So they hook up back here again in a last man standing battle. And, the coffee's behind them. They've even kind of moved past the disfigurement thing, and now it's just these two guys do not like each other. Yep. So this one goes almost 18 minutes, Scott. Very long match here on this show, almost the longest of the show besides the main event. Did you think this feud was worthy of a 17-minute last man standing match?
Yeah, it was. It was. I thought it worked pretty well together. I mean, two guys of varying styles. I'll tell you something, though. Really watching that match today, Kane was fucking ripped. I mean, he was jacked. I think more jacked than he was when he debuted in 97. I feel like he's even bigger now. He's huge. Bigger than Taker.
Yeah, he was enormous at this time.
He was huge. Not huge fat, not Big Show huge, but like freaking ripped.
Mm-hmm.
And his arms were massive.
He was a big fan of the Orange Julius.
Yes.
Juicing.
And, excuse me. And I thought the match was fine. I would grade it a little. I actually would grade it a little higher than I did on my original review. I think that the pace was good. They brawled around the arena.
You like it better than Survivor Series?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. You don't think it's too long?
No, I don't think so. Now, here's the thing. We talk about all this time wasted with, vignettes and and that long Vince thing, and they still were able to fit 17 minutes.
Yeah.
Without jipping really any other match. So
yeah,
as much
it's an
as
odd card. It is.
Yeah, as much as I've been complaining and still will complain that the fluff in this match was kind of unnecessary, they still had time for a lot of long matches. I mean, our next match was just for a title, is a decent length.
Well, not for what it is.
Longer,
yeah.
But
all right, so a couple things here. Jericho. Well, first of all, Last Man Standing. That's a gimmick we hadn't seen in like decades, and now we have two in the same year.
Yes, both involving the same guy.
I was gonna say it's kind of cool they're making it like Jericho's match, so they kind of use his experience here in that. Also, they made Jericho look like very resilient in this match. Kane really beat the shit out of him. He kept coming back, wouldn't stay down, and Kane started to get frustrated. And that's where things get a little bit interesting. Is things would backfire. Jericho grabbed the chair, and that's where he was able to really turn the match around. And I thought the finish was a little funny, a little goofy with the barrels piling on a Kane at the end. He sticks his hand up, but it kind of made sense for Kane.
But what's worse is it wasn't like a wall of barrels; it was a wall of like faux barrels, like stuck together. It was a prop, and I thought that was kind of
It's
weak.
better than someone using the stairs. Those are the worst.
Oh yeah, those are the worst. Now the match that Jericho had with Triple H at Fully Loaded better than this one, obviously.
Yeah.
But this one's still not terrible.
I mean, that match is like an all-timer. This is forgettable.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. You kind of threw the analogy out there about being resilient. Do you think they did a great job of, because we've talked about resilient guys all year, and of course Taz, Mr. Resilient, but he was like resilient, plucky little dorky underdog resilient.
yes.
Whereas Jericho came off as just a tough son of a bitch who's more than just glitz and
there's a major
pretty
difference.
hair and nice cute promos, and he was really a tough son of a bitch.
Oh, there's a major difference. When you're resilient against Kane, Triple H, Chris Benoit, that's different than being resilient against Prince Albert and the Big Boss Man hitting you with a nightstick. You know what I mean? Like, there's a big difference there.
That's true.
Obviously. And with Taz, they always made it like he was resilient because he was a small little, gritty Dustin Pedroia guy. And Jericho is a guy that's like being portrayed as someone who can legitimately hang with these studs. Mm-hmm. And, the Benoit one, you kind of forget that they did it with him. Remember the SummerSlam he passed out and everything. So this has really been running since July, this whole building Jericho as this guy who won't give up, won't tap out, and will fight till he either can't anymore or till he wins. Right. I think that was strategic. I think it was really to get, he's a guy that looked a little bit like a pretty boy. He was kind of a goof with his promos and everything else. So I think it was a little bit to legitimize him with these other studs that could just beat the shit out of people and hang in these rough and tumble matches. So I think it made sense to book him like that. And they've kind of done it slyly. Yeah. They haven't done these crazy skits where he's all this tough guy and everything else. Like, they just have him going into matches, sometimes as an underdog, and have him hang against guys that are believable and guys that you thought could kick his ass if they had to. And that's what I like about it. I like that they did it kind of in a slick manner. So that it's, here's the feud with Triple H. Oh, he goes, 25 minutes and survives this crazy bloody brawl and only loses by half a second. Oh, here's this match with a guy who, just dismantles his opponents in Chris Benoit, and he gets choked out, but he doesn't tap out. And here's Kane, who we've seen just wreck people, and he's this huge, juiced-up monster. And Jericho goes 2 matches with him, lost the first one, but lives to tell about it. Got thrown through a glass window, comes back here, and wins it in a last man standing. So, yeah, I think they've done a great job of making Jericho be legitimized as a competitor.
You could argue that this is probably the second match up the card after the main event. If you look at the rest of the card, it's like the secondary match.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but is that due to who's in it or who else is not on, that the fact that all the other guys are in the main event. I mean, you still have other guys ahead. If they weren't in that main event, this would be like 5th on the card like it was in Survivor Series.
But still, I mean, hey, they structured the card as such, which is why I think that that this match was built like that for that specific reason, because Jericho was not in the main event, and therefore he could be positional higher in the card, and that kind of a little reward for working his butt off the second half of the year, in that insipid, not insipid work rate wise, but just for comment or I can't think of the word, but he went through the X-Pac feud, which was good match wise, but you're wondering why they were even feuding. But he went through that.
Okay, so what happened? I guess you didn't. 900 miles an hour. I guess it was just so far down. I guess you just didn't hear me or something when I asked you before.
Such a dickhead. Go back to your aunt's party at Sizzler. I guess you didn't hear me when I. No, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you. I didn't care, but I care now. That he's kind of earned the right to technically have kind of a secondary match in the show. Yes, it's because the other guys are on another match, but hey,
right,
take what you can get.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely well positioned and well built and everything else. So
yeah, so a good match, and the ending was fine. I just didn't like. If you're gonna knock Kane over, if you're gonna avalanche him with barrels. Don't avalanche him with this thrown together prop where they're all stuck together and it's like a wall of barrels. I mean, that makes no sense. That was kind of silly, but the match itself I liked. I liked it a lot. I didn't think it was that bad. Not better than his match with Triple H at Fully Loaded, but still very good. All right. Your boy Coach, or our boy Coach, catches up with Commissioner Mick Foley's Lieutenant Commissioner. Now, this was back in late October in the 10:30 Raw. Guess who was named Lieutenant Commissioner, JR? You know.
Deborah, and hopefully she's a little more sober than we saw her back at Backlash.
Yes.
Announcing the match. So, yes, I guess, with Austin back, Deborah is now back on the road, so they wanted to use her.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this kind of felt forced, though. I thought it felt kind of goofy. But I don't know what else they could have done with her, because now they've established that she's Austin's wife. Can you really have her managing other people? I don't know what they could have done with her. I mean, I guess this fits, but just kind of... We've never had to look at Deborah in this kind of light as, someone who should be in charge of anything, and...
yes.
I don't know, this seemed kind of shoehorned in, which it was. So
yeah, it was, and she tells Coach where Mick Foley is. Coach finds Mick Foley, goes on a pretty damn good promo.
Yeah,
says he's been nervous to put this main event together. He knew it was the right decision, and even though he second, third, fourth, and fifth guesses himself, he still thinks to himself, "I'm doing the right thing." Well,
Foley's been locked in because he had a great promo on TV with Vince, a great face-to-face. Where Vince was, let him have it and called him a fat piece of crap and all this other shit, and Foley basically told him to fuck off and everything.
Yeah.
It was really a lot of heat behind it, and we'll see where that leads right after the show. But, Mick really kind of got away from the goofy stuff in these couple weeks heading into the show and kind of started taking his job seriously and his legacy seriously as GM or as commissioner. Yep. He kind of been shit on or kind of looked at as a clown, and now he's getting pissed about it, it seems.
Yes, and he takes it very seriously. We then head to World Wrestling Federation New York, WWF New York, where Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels is in the house.
You find it weird that they had him there and not on the show if they were going to involve him in something?
I would have been surprised if they made him the ref. I'm surprised Foley didn't put him in as a guest referee of this match. He has history with almost everybody. Except maybe one of the guys, but if you're going to put Shawn Michaels on a show in some capacity, why not have him in the arena doing something special?
Do you think, though, it would have been... you think it would have been overkill with him as the ref, though? I mean, these other 6 guys in there, a lot of heated storylines. You're going to have Vince involved. That's been pretty much, established. So, I don't know. I feel like it would have been just
overkill.
Even more overkill than we need. I think it would have been a waste of Shawn. If you're gonna bring him back to do something,
well, he already reffed a match earlier in the year,
right?
So I guess you're right. So if you didn't think he should have been here, where would you put him?
In the crowd.
Just have him.
Or how about on commentary?
Have him be on in commentary with King and Lawler or King and JR during the match.
Yeah, during the match. Just do that one match.
Okay.
Just say, all right, we're going to bring a guy with a lot of expertise in the cell. He knows all these guys well, pretty much. He's fought a few of them, one of them in a cell anyway, and everything else. And then you just you have him announce a match. We know he's a good commentator. I mean, he did it in '95. He's done it in '98, and so maybe something like that. Just have him be there at the show. But I know they were trying to push WWF New York and everything else and have a draw there, so it's fine. And they use him here to discuss the danger of the match. But I just thought they could have effectively used him in the storyline as a guy who's forewarning the danger. But I think as ref, it would have been, especially as this match was kind of rushed. It was only 3 weeks after Survivor Series for the show.
Yeah.
So you really would have had to shoehorn him in. And I think just having him I think being a commentary. Although then again, with the state of mind he was in, maybe you didn't want him on live commentary either.
Yeah, God only knows. Incidentally, JR, I wanted to add that to this. I now remember, and I remembered it today when I was watching this, and I wanted to bring it up. I was in Manhattan that day. I remember this very well. Me and the doctor and a couple of our other buddies, doing some Christmas shopping and hanging out. We went to WWF New York earlier in the day for lunch. And I was thinking, oh, guys, why don't we stay here and, watch the show from here? Maybe somebody will be here. And then they put up the signs. Oh, Shawn Michaels going to be here. Oh, my God. And then it turned out that if you wanted to stay, it was an extra like $25 a person to stay. And we were like, nah. Went home, watched it on TV. I wonder if they did. I'm sure they did that for every.
Yeah, it's weird. They would have a cover for their own.
I know.
$25. I mean, I'm sure they weren't getting charged to air the pay-per-views. I mean, I get.
Oh, obviously not. And I mean,
like $10 would have been reasonable.
Yeah, particularly. And we said we're like, that was one of the early stupid things about the restaurant, because we said, we've been here since I had my Foley shirt on, and the doctor had his one of his Austin shirts, and we're like, we're fans. I mean, we're going to be here. We'll stay here. We'll pay for drinks, and we'll get some apps and food and stuff, and we'll hang out. And sorry, And he goes, you're lucky because we're giving you $5 off because you're already here. If you walk in after 5 o'clock, it's $30.
Jesus.
Wow. Seriously?
I guess it's like ordering the pay-per-view, and then you got to spend on food. Who the fuck would go there and pay $30 to watch it?
Yeah, really, Joe. Just because Sean's there?
And there are people who stopped coming to Picasso's because they don't want to pay $5.
I know. What the fuck?
I guess
that's never happened to me again since. Like I didn't go again on a pay-per-view day, so I don't know if they ever were smart enough to lower the price or whatever.
I wonder how much of it had to do with Sean being there.
I think that's what it had to be. But I mean, there was always somebody there every pay-per-view.
Yeah, but I mean, who's paying $30 because fucking Raven's there, or Terry or something?
I know, but again, though, like you said, Sean's already being paid. It's not like you're giving. It's not like he's getting a cut of the pie. I mean,
no, I know, but I mean, it's like anything, like any kind of autograph signing or whatever.
Yeah,
you usually
exactly.
pay to get the autograph.
Anyway, I remember the meal in particular that day was again not. It was like the second time we went, and I remember the food was not great.
Should have went to Jeff Saturn's instead.
Exactly, Jeff Saturn Steakhouse. Sean wasn't there. Okay, our next match is our second title match of the evening. It is the World Wrestling Federation. Our World Wrestling.
Gotta move some things.
Kind of a sad moment here, JR. Sad moment for him. Anyway, this is a fatal four-way match.
Up and down the street, moving pianos.
Moving pianos. A fatal four-way match for the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championships.
You should have wore your overalls to WWF New York.
Yes, maybe I should have. And maybe I should have wore a bandana and started singing, do some things.
We're moving some things. We're going to move it.
So they're a moving company? What? Your teams, the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions, Bull Buchanan and the Good Father, Right to Censor. The Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray and Devon, who have really become pretty hot baby faces.
Yeah, they really picked it back up.
Do you think they passed the Hardys?
I don't know. The Hardys have that built-in loyalty and female fandom. But I guess as far as push goes, I would say yes. I think the Hardys have tapered since the loss to the Right to Censor and all the Conquistador stuff.
Okay. And, of course, the constants and maybe your tag team of the year, and that is, of course, Edge and Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I'm very sad, JR, is because... No, there's no break. Not yet.
Because...
Final pay-per-view appearance.
Because of the awful jeans he wears.
Because of those baggy... Which he was not wearing in this night. He was wearing black, I guess, baggy tights and a University of Alabama jersey.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. Yeah.
The overalls are brutal.
Yes, they were. They were terrible. So if he was a heel, what would he have worn? Like Auburn, I guess? Florida, probably. This is, sadly, Road Dogg Jesse James, the double G's final pay-per-view appearance. Now, at the time, you didn't know it, so I couldn't say I was sad because I had no idea.
Well, he would make a return decade later. But
yes. Do you have our review in front of you?
Yep.
Ah, never mind then. Damn. Now, 2 weeks after this show, he would show up on Raw, Shawn Michaels style. Put it that way. He was in no condition to do anything. So he was booted.
Booted.
Fired. Bad time to be fired, by the way, too.
Yeah, right. Heading into the most lucrative show of the year.
And
although it was kind of one of those ones where it's like,
and job prospects are not great. So,
and he was kind of. I mean, I think he had run his course. I thought he was hanging on by a thread, kind of with some of the later end of the year X-Pac stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Once they split, he really seemed lost again. And then, you know, the role of him as K-Quick's mentor is fine, but yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone was probably crying too much when he left.
Yeah, it was the end of the line. 40. That's a lot, too.
Jesus.
For what?
Well, he's been around since early '95.
Yeah.
And then he left, remember, for about five or 6 months or so, or actually almost closer to a year, right? When did he come back in as Jesse James? Mid '96.
Yeah, right, like June, something like that, May or June.
Yeah, he was probably out for about a year. So
yeah,
debuted in early '95, but really slash a year off that. So in 5 years, 40 pay-per-view matches. So I mean, he pretty much didn't miss a pay-per-view unless he was suspended for drugs or whatever other reason.
Yeah, exactly.
But he was on a lot of shows. This guy, he had a lot of work, heavy workload.
Mm-hmm. So 40 pay-per-view matches and a final pay-per-view record. No contests. We like that. 19 and 21. So just a scoosh below 500.
I think you see that from a lot of guys in this era. As we see more guys taper off that had this volume of matches, I'm pretty sure a lot of them edge towards the 500 mark, I would guess.
Yeah. Now, of those 19 wins, I think it's safe to say, 15 of them were in New Age Outlaws?
I'm sure, yeah. The most probably came in 1998.
Yeah. So, there you go. And he is now gone. And I will miss him because I had his T-shirt to go with my other myriad of T-shirts. I had
the Road Dogg panties.
I did, and I had the garter. Wait, huh? Oh. I liked Road Dogg. I was sad that when he left. But again, I couldn't say, I was going to miss him because at the time, I didn't know that he was not going to be around.
Yeah, it kind of happened quick. All of a sudden he was gone, and K-Quick, speaking of Quick, K-Quick was on his own, and that short-lived tag team just becomes a footnote. But they get their one pay-per-view title match here in the 4-way. On the 12-10 SmackDown, the Dudleys seemingly joined the Right to Censor.
What?
They hit the ring, decked out in shirts and ties. RTC was all pumped up. They had converted 2 more of the Nemesises. It was then that Bubba grabbed the mic and said if putting people through tables was wrong, he didn't want to be right. And they assaulted the RTC. Bubba and Devon put them all through tables and added fuel to this fire. So Edge and Christian, now that the tag titles are off the Hardys, as we talked about, are eligible again for a tag title match. Mm-hmm. Road Dogg and K-Quick felt they had claim as well, so Foley put all 4 of these teams into a match. And after 9 minutes, Edge and Christian regain their straps when Christian pins Bubba with an unprettier. That, of course, will set up their feud. I thought it was fine to get the belts off the Right to Censor. They had their little run as a dominant team, but as you're heading into the new year, into Rumble and Mania season, you kind of needed your top guns back at the top of the mountain. You know, them not having the titles was fine for a couple months here at the end of the year, but they really needed to they need to be in the pole position as we hit 01.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously, dating back to WrestleMania, were the torchbearers of the division, and they needed to be shown as the torchbearers of the division. And, it was a fun match. It was pretty good for just under 10 minutes. All 4 teams looked pretty good. And Edge and Christian, again, as they seem to always do when they win the title, is sneak the win through nefarious means. And Christian gets the pin. He hits Bubba Ray with an unprettier. And Edge and Christian are now the 4-time, already, all since March, 4-time World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. Mm-hmm. 4 times in, 10 and a half months or something like that. Crazy. But you agree with the decision?
Oh, yeah, 100%. You can only do so much with the Right to Censor as champs. I mean, I don't know what else we were going to do with them. Unless you were going to have some team show up, and I don't know, outside of the Dudleys, who that would be, a team show up to be like the opposite of what the RTC preached to take them down.
Right.
I don't know. Would you have maybe have the Dudleys win the titles and then Edge and Christian like screw them the next night on Raw or something to jumpstart their feud instead? Would have made more sense as the Dudleys to just have a singles tag match here and win it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends where they thought their plans were going heading into 2001 and heading into the next pay-per-view. I mean, it's a good point. Did you really need Road Dogg and K-Quick here? So you don't have Edge and Christian on the show at all. You have the Dudleys cleanly beat Right to Censor. And then maybe the next night on Raw. I mean, remember, it's a lot of weeks between now and the next pay-per-view. You could have them hold it for a couple weeks, maybe have like a New Year's show, have Edge and Christian beat them cheap.
Yeah, we've seen them go shows without Edge and Christian before. I mean, I don't think that's a big deal.
Right.
You could have them doing a lot of shit backstage or whatever. So.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. No, it's possible that you could have gotten away with just a singles match here. Have the Dudleys win back the straps, and then a couple weeks later, right before Christmas or between Christmas and New Year's, have the Edge and Christian win it cheap, and then you still get your 5-week bill to the next pay-per-view. So Edge and Christian already after 9.5 or 10 months, 4-time World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. Crazy. And they have it here once again. Easily the Tag Team of the Year for 2000. Next up, our next and penultimate title match of the evening, which will make it our third title match of the evening. The World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental.
Everything you wish you had.
But God gave it all to me.
On occasion, my reflection.
I remember the next line.
Causes me something.
I got it all.
But God gave it all to me.
On occasion, my reflection. Puts even me in awe. I got it all.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're singing like Mark Claire.
Why did you just took the thought right out of my head. I thought the same thing. I think any time he goes into one of his, convention rallies or debates or something, I think he should come into that song. I think it'd be perfect. With his blonde hair flowing in the breeze. Kind of like Billy. Although Billy's was more frosted at this point.
Yes.
All right. We mentioned earlier in the show, JR, that Eddie Guerrero was no longer World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Champion. When did this happen?
It happened, good sir, on the 11/23 SmackDown. I believe that was the thing. Was that the Thanksgiving show? I think it was.
Possibly, sure.
And he won his first and only Intercontinental Championship by defeating Eddie Guerrero. Kind of an upset. You agree?
Oh, absolutely. But we obviously all, as we would figure out later on down the line, Eddie was like no shape to do much of anything at this point. They needed a transition. They needed a transition guy for the guy that Billy Gunn would face here. The man that had the coolest kazoo theme in all of the World Wrestling Federation.
Yes.
His name is Chris Benoit, and he's very mad.
Billy.
His name is Chris Benoit, and he's very angry. Yes. Chris Benoit.
Billy Gunn. It's Eddie Guerrero. Odd decisions. I mean, I guess he was just really meant to be the ultimate transition champion.
Yes.
And it's fine, but it was just weird. It was very off-putting to see him knock off Eddie. And in a way, it was actually, I guess, kind of payoff with the China stuff.
Yeah.
Because China wasn't going to go over for the title, so you couldn't really have her get full revenge. Mm-hmm. So they had Billy do it, which makes sense. So yeah, that's fine. Benoit shows up here and dismantles Billy in 10 minutes. This is almost like a squash, basically.
I mean, I watched this match so intently today, JR. I think maybe Billy got like 3 moves. Maybe.
Well, I love that Benoit kicked out of the Famouser. Just fucking buried his finisher and then put him in the crossface. Gunn got his foot on the rope, but then the knee injury of Billy came back, and Benoit went back to it and forced a submission. So just a great win. It's almost like a football team kind of playing above their head, and you maybe get a little excited for them, and then they play like a really good team and just fucking dismantle them. Like that's what this was. Like, oh, Billy won the IC title. He's looking pretty good lately. Nope. Sorry. No. Benoit just beats the shit out of him and takes the title.
And like I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the other guys, this was a showcase for the Chris Benoit we knew.
Right.
In WCW when he was a horseman, feuding with Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, and he's been up and down. I mean, I won't say this is the best he's been booked, because I think he's been booked pretty well. I mean, after that first couple up and down months, really since Mania, I thought he's looked pretty good. I mean, he's moved through guys pretty well. He had the IC title, then he had the big feud with The Rock going into July. He's back with Jericho, and then he was in the world title picture again in the fall. So I mean, he's been handled pretty well. And even now with the rebuilt Radicals, he's really looked at as the leader of the group. I mean, obviously the other three were in a tag match in the opener, and here he's getting the IC title back around his waist. So I think things are looking pretty good for him heading into 2001.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, really, like the first couple minutes, you can just see Billy just rolling around on the canvas, and Benoit's just stomping him and kicking him, and it was just a systematic dissection of pure greatness. Chris Benoit. Now, 2-time World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Champion. Do you think that this was a fine spot for him to be in? I remember some of the diehards earlier in the year, pissed off about the whole Rock thing and all the false title win finishes and all this jazz.
Yeah, I mean, the main event picture is so loaded up right now, and Angle deserved the title as well, and he was there before Benoit. So I mean. And no one can really have a beef with Angle having the belt. And, I mean, I'd rather have Benoit doing this than being the sixth man in that Hell in a Cell and kind of not doing much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he wouldn't have fit. This was a case where he wouldn't have fit in that match. He wouldn't have fit. This was better as the way it was. So, there you go. Chris Benoit, your new World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Champion. Second time this year. Of course, he won it at WrestleMania and then lost it. Right before King of the Ring. So, all right, let's take a break. We've got 2 matches left. 2 more title matches, actually. And of course, the match that defines this pay-per-view, and many consider kind of a dark horse candidate for match of the year, as well. So, but before that, why don't we take
Charles Barkley all of a sudden?
well,
before we head to that.
Before we head to that, let me tell you something, Candace, man. Why don't we take a break? Because...
What? We got a paper, that's what.
Devoted sister, beloved cunt.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
What I'd like to have right now.
Chad, do you ever feel that the world revolves around WWF?
I think you mean WWE there, Barf.
Yeah, whatever, but what about David Crockett?
She likes it!
Well, what about Jimmy Valiant?
I'm gonna get y'all until I get you, Paul Jones. Ooh.
The Four Horsemen.
We are a family, and we are the best.
The Omni, the Dangerous Alliance.
Please welcome the newest members of the Dangerous Alliance. I'm Anderson and Larry Zbyszko.
Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express.
The Fantastics are putting the U.S. Tag Team title on the line against the Midnight Express.
Main events with actual work rate in them.
Woo! 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 All right!
It's just not fair to Flair.
It's not fair for Flair.
If this is what you're looking for, please check out Where the Big Boys Play podcast, the only pure NWA and WCW supercard podcast out there.
While you were in Hollywood making movies, Thunder Lips, I was winning world titles.
Well, there they are, our good friends Chad and Parr, Where the Big Boys Play. Now, if you want nonstop, old-school NWA discussion, dating back to that very first Starrcade, these guys have it covered. Even the PICs have made an appearance once. We are very particular what podcasts we visit. So check out our friends Chad and Parr, Where the Big Boys Play. Their link is right on our site, placetvnation.com. Just go into the podcast menu, and there they are, with the other great shows we partner with. Chad and Parr, working Where the Big Boys Play. Speaking of Place to Be Nation, that's your everyday home for your pop culture needs. At PlaceToBeNation.com, we have everything. Wrestling, sports, comics, even polls. We want your opinions as well. Every day there's something different with our top staff of writers who are experts in all fields of pop culture. From the weekly Raw review to the return of the hack, we've got everything you need. We're also working with a myriad of great podcasts. Of course, besides Chad and Parv, we have Grapple Talk, the Fans Podcast, Off the Top Rope, Answering the 10 Count, We Found New Music, and the Kings of Sport with Nate Milton. We've got everything for your listening pleasure. So check us out every day of the week at PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world. Now, don't forget about our good friend Graham Cawthon and the history of WWE.com. He's still the top source for all argument solvers, from match results to house show cards to pay-per-view histories. Any questions you need answered, any debates among wrestling fans that need ending, head over to Graham's treasure trove of information. You will certainly find it. Need to know what the opener of Starrcade 1995 was? What was the main event of that 1988 Boston Garden house show you went to when you were 11 years old? Graham can tell you. He has WWE, WCW, ECW results, and the growing results in TNA and Ring of Honor. So for all your wrestling research needs, check out Graham Cawthon at thehistoryofwwe.com. Now finally, if you want a place to just hang out, discuss all things wrestling with fellow diehard fans, check out the news and the great forums at twfnews.com. They have all the up-to-the-minute stories in WWE, TNA, and pretty much everywhere in between. They talk old school, Attitude Era, and even those hard-to-remember guys and shows like Waylon Mercy or In Your House Number 3. So check out all there is to see right on twfnews.com.
Hey, this is Scott Hudson, and you're listening to the Place to Be podcast with Scott and Justin.
Pack is back, cause I'm mass destruction. Guess who's here? The bad boys are wrestling. Testing competition when the war does their mission. Not no mercy, see the race like the street. If you don't know, you better find out the wolf pack. Here to prove a point, number one, just believe that you don't want to tussle with them. I'll be there for.
All right, Nization, we are back in the midst of reviewing Armageddon 2000, wrapping up this month. Can you believe we're already almost through the year 2000, Scott? Crazy.
We're done with it.
13 more to go. We're caught up. We can call it a day.
Yep. Woohoo!
All right. PlaceToBeNation.com. All kinds of big things going on.
Yes.
I'm going to kind of take you through the last few days there and some of the pieces you may have missed, and also have a major announcement at the end of this little section here. Goodbye to you, 232. Andrew Reich takes a look at the demise of the 232 NBA Finals format. Really good look at what that setup has meant and what kind of changes we could look forward to as they return to the 2-2-1-1-1 format. Maurice Pogue looks at Valve, the new challenger, Grapple Talk Radio, John Dodson and Kevin Eole, and of course our Place to Be podcast. If you missed it, we did the wrestling pay-per-view draft Listomania, Scott. The votes rolling in. You're making a little bit of you're kind of picking your head up off the mat a little bit. You can't really get to your legs yet, but you're looking around. You're not down for that 10 count yet, but the current tally is 23-7 for your boy.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys still have plenty of time to vote. You can go right to the thread on PlaceToBeNation.com or the post where the podcast is. You can look at the full draft results, and then you can lay in your vote. And, of course, Chad Campbell, later this week, I believe, will have his full Mel Kiper draft analysis up. And you can go ahead and check that out. Also, you can look at the last 2 episodes of Ring of Honor via my recaps. We have the World Championship Final. Of course, the whole episode was centered around that match where Adam Cole defeated Michael Elgin in the finals to become the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. And then last week, which was this past Saturday's episode, Scott, I kind of liked it. It was back to basics. As fun as the tournament was, it was kind of cool to get back to just some featuring different guys and kind of enhancement-style matches instead of just, very heavy, gritty, gutty wars in the tournament. It was kind of nice to get back to that old school TV format.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of recaps, we also had Main Event by Steve Willie, Your Impact, one of your final ones, Scott. We're going to talk about that next week. And, of course, also we had Matt Petticord, the great Matt Petticord, looked at SmackDown. I won't say episode 2, but not really episode 2. Installment 2 of Flanagan's Follies, reviewing Bob's Burgers at Eastbound and Down. Now, Scott, this isn't just a review. Andy really delves into themes in each of these and really breaks down the episodes and what you should think about these types of shows, and really in-depth stuff there from Andrew Flanagan. Hard-traveling fanboys back as always, counting down the most disappointing superhero movies. That's Greg Phillips and Nick Duke. Now, one of our biggest pieces of last week was our buddy Parr from Where the Big Boys Play, broke down and ranked all every single one of Bob Dylan's albums. I believe there were, 35 of them?
Yeah, it's a pretty good hunk.
So he went through and did that. So if you are a fan of Bob Dylan or that style of music, or just reading about music, check out Parv's Guide to Bob Dylan's albums. Answering the 10 count, had their newest episode up, as well as Wrestling with the Past, who reviewed the year 1991. Will and Charles joined by Childs Walker. So if you missed, the first time they did this was 1990. I believe that was their first episode. And now they are doing 1991. So they look at not just the North American companies, but also Japan, Lucha, and everything else. So very in-depth. Where the Big Boys Play, episode 51 is up. Capital Combat 1990. They welcome our buddy Peter in. And that is, of course, the infamous RoboCop show. So it's worth listening for that. I'm sure Parv had some good comments on that one. House of Horror. A Night on Nightmare on Elm Street #2. That is, of course, Jeremy Nichols' weekly look at horror movies.
Yes.
Lita Clark today talked about 5 video games that would make great shark movie tie-ins. So you can check that out. Lita does a great job writing about video games. Yes. Todd Weber's review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 3rd episode is up. And one of the better pieces I've read in a while, really, about TNA, Ben Morse talks about the alternative that wrestling needs and what TNA really could be. What it should be. It's if you're into TNA or you want to, maybe try and give it a shot finally after all these years, or if you're just curious of what's going on, Ben really does a great job. Ben's a great writer and does a great job with this piece too. So make sure you check out all that. And now, Scott, I did tease a major announcement.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who had been with Scott and I really since almost day one, I mean, we've been doing these things forever. Mm-hmm. You'll remember, of course, what launched this whole beautiful partnership was our old school Vintage Vault. Well, we call it Vintage Vault now, but our pay-per-view reviews. We started at WrestleMania 1. We went in order. We have the fun facts. We have all our analysis of the matches. And they are making their return. We kind of had to put them on hiatus once we started the podcast and we had the website going. And it's been a while, Scott, since we posted a new one. And they used to just be exclusive to the Place to Be message board.
Yep.
And also we'd siphon them off to Graham's History of WWE website. But they will now be housed, the new editions, at placetobeanation.com. And this week, keep your eyes open because Judgment Day 2008 review will be posted. That's right. The Scott and Justin reviews are back. Now, we're not going to tie ourselves into any kind of schedule. Back in the day, we used to fucking churn those things out once a week almost. But
yeah, I know. Yeah.
But we are not going to be moving at that pace. That's what everything else going on. But they will be on a regular basis. You'll be able to, we're in a good spot now, too, because we're about 5 years back. So I think I like to look at, 4 to 5 years out to really go back and look at these shows and not have them feel like they were just yesterday. So I think we're in a good spot now. I don't know if you agree with that. Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree. And it was fun to go back and watch Judgment Day 08. This era that we're watching JR is a little tough because, again, we're for the first time, the product. And the product doesn't totally mirror now. I think we've kind of let the current product evolve a little bit before going back. So it doesn't look totally identical to the current product. So it's still a change of pace to watch something from 5 years ago. But, because a lot of guys are no longer here or no longer active. Mm-hmm. So, yes, Judgment Day 2008 will be posted this week, and I think you'll enjoy it. And it was nice to kind of write again. It was nice to kind of refreshen ourselves to the way of writing. So, looking forward to all of you, particularly you new readers who haven't really delved into it totally yet. Dive right in. It's going to be a lot of fun. So it's good to be back.
Yep. And also, finally, want to give a quick plug. Graham Cawthon's History of WWE book. 1963 to 1989. My copy was shipped, so I should be getting it this week, hopefully, so I can't wait to read that over. And, of course, you can order that as well. You can go right to placetobeanation.com, click the Amazon link on the front page, and then go in there and order the book, and you help all of us out. So
yes, and you can get it, not just the book itself, the actual physical book, but like our man Dr. G, who got it on his Kindle.
There you go, and you can do that through the link as well. So there's your placetobeanation.com update, and again, keep your eyes peeled for the return of the pay-per-view reviews later this week. All right, Scott, we got 2 matches left on this pay-per-view, so let's hop on in.
Okay. Before this match, we had another XFL promo. This is about the cheerleaders. Then our next match, which is the second of 3... Actually, I just realized we had 4 straight title matches to end the show.
Yep.
So loaded up with gold. This one, the World Wrestling Federation Women's Championship on the line. Your champion in a triple threat match, Ivory of Right to Censor, taking on Trish Stratus in her very first women's championship match of her career. And the newcomer to the division, the cute Holly, hardcore, no. The cute Holly, of course, Molly Holly.
Yeah, and just a match here to kind of reassert Ivory's dominance because they're really trying to build her up heading into 01 with that feud with China that's coming.
Yes. Yep.
So Molly, she's been pretty good since she's debuted, and Trish as well is kind of starting to learn the ropes and getting it a little bit more. Things are starting to click.
Yep.
But nothing much here, really. Ivory wins really quick. She pins Trish, not a surprise. The real hook to this is after the match when TNA comes out to intimidate Molly with Trish, and the APA make their big return from injury and attack the TNA and kind of push that feud along. So no, I don't think there's much to talk about here other than this is really just all about Ivory being established as the main heel in the women's division.
Pretty much, and as you mentioned a few matches ago, JR, she's pretty much the frickin' face of RTC right now. She's pretty much the strongest member. She's on all the segments and anytime they're on camera. So she is the strong one right now and the only one in Right to Censor that is holding gold. She retains her World Wrestling Federation Women's Championship. All right. Easily.
Hey, PTB Nation, it is now time for the Rob Houston Memorial Hacksaw Jim Duggan Update.
I got my 2x4.
Something that could have made his ass a real man.
Mr. Dobalina, Mr. Bob Dobalina, Mr. Bobalina, Mr. Bob Dobalina. Hey, Claire, where'd you get this weed, dude? This fucking shit is great. What? What's that, Rotella? We're on the air? Oh. Criscola, you there?
I am, VKM. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, hang on. Hold on, I gotta get some energy. Hang on. What? All right, Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr. here with your Hacksaw Jim Duggan update. Duggan, I don't have it. I fucking know. All right, Criscola, how was your weekend?
My weekend was quite well, VKM. Just based on.
Have you been celebrating the movie collection of Christopher Columbus like I have? Home Alone 2?
Yes. I did. Yes, Home Alone 2.
And that fake one that went right to the videos?
Yes, that is right.
Like a fucking WCW pay-per-view right to video stores?
Yes. VKM, let's not kid ourselves. I know what you were doing this weekend.
I hit the Foxy Lady with all my guys.
That's right.
Claire, Rotella, Flanagan, all the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Mike McGurk was there.
Oh, she was, huh?
We put her in that shower, handcuffed her up.
Down to Christianella?
Sprayed her down. Christianella was upstairs. You had to pay extra for her.
Oh, okay.
She's going to pay for that hip surgery.
But you got the VIP card, so carte blanche for you, my friend.
You know it.
The Ciroc was gone. The Kahlua, the peach tree.
We had it all.
Empty.
Claire was doing friggin' shots off Armento's hairy back.
Oh, boy. Wow. And I heard, VKM, that you actually you were like to hell with the limos in the shop after the infamous Glamour Girls puke.
How does this show do as well as it does with you stuttering through comments like this? I don't understand how this show even gets the ratings it gets.
Normal.
Walker, Texas Ranger would beat this show. La Femme Nikita. Coming up next. Rod Perth makes me say that at least once a week. Earn that check.
Bonnie Hammer. Yeah.
Got to pump Pacific Blue with Mario Lopez. Make sure you check it out. Turn it to burn. What are you talking about tonight, Criscola?
Armageddon 2000.
Armageddon hard in here. Who was on the tape on this one? What's this one about?
This is it's The Undertaker. It's a cartoon, an animation of The Undertaker and a bunch of bikers driving to hell.
Is that what happens in the show?
No.
Oh. No. Criscola, I'm a big fan of The End of Days and The End of World.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a little karaoke churned up.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I promised the world that, we deliver it all. Mm-hmm. I got it all. I heard that in a song somewhere one time.
Yep.
So, Armageddon, End of the World. I have a very fitting song. So, Claire, hit the karaoke. Rotella? What? All right. Get ready. You're singing backup. That's great. It started with Earthquake, Coco's Birds, and Jake the Snake. Gonna be Kane. Rick Rude's not afraid. Eye of a Hurricane. That'll learn world is served in. You need that. Double serve your needs. And the fed off the arm green grunt, the strength and the ladder and the chatter and the ferret and the height and the wire and the fire and the representative 7 games of the government fire the combat site. Left of the West End coming in a hurry with the Furies breathing down your neck. Team by team reporters baffled trouble. Fine then the overflow population common food, but it'll do. Save yourself, serve yourself. World serves its own needs. Listen to your heart, baby. All right, you're vitriolic, patriotic, slam, fight bright light, feeling pretty psyched. Oh God. Oh, I'm gonna pass out. Hold on. Oh God, it's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. I don't feel fine, Rotella. Get the defibrillators. Oh, God. 6 o'clock TV hour. Don't get caught. Foreign tower slash and burn. Read to you. Listen to yourself. Try locking in. Uniforming. Book burning. Blood letting. Every motive. Escalade. Automated. Etc. Light a candle. Light a motor. Step down. Step down. Watch your heel. Crotch. Crotch. Oh. This means no fair. Cavalier. Renegades here. Clear tournament. A tournament to care of the king of the ring. Offer me solutions. Offer me alternatives. And I decline. The end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. Hang on.
Armento, come
here. What, Criscola, what's that?
Oh, nothing. No, VCam, you sound great.
Is this going okay?
No, it's going
I'm
great.
Sweating a lot over here. I feel like I'm about to pass out.
No, it's awesome.
The end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the... Rotella, get me a chair. I gotta sit down. Oh, hang on.
Open the back door. Okay. All right, put him in. Go on. Split. And there goes the limo.
Oh, all right. That didn't sound good.
I couldn't take that anymore. I was not being held responsible for that. I don't know what the fuck that was, but I was not being held responsible for that.
Well, he's bumping lines.
Bad enough that the days of Giante sleeping on your fucking floor. I am not taking part if this one drops dead right on the air. And we got friggin' God only knows.
He did not sound good at the end there.
No, I had Armento open the back door. GPS, I don't know, a fucking walk-in at this time of night. Throw him in the back seat and get him out of here.
Well,
I don't know if he'll be back next week.
That might be it for Vince.
I don't know what's going on.
Hopefully he's okay.
Wow.
Sounds like you got a bad batch of drugs or something.
Bad. Yeah. Told him not to keep going out, Billy Jack Haynes. Jesus Christ. Wait, he left a bag here. Property of Brian at... Oh, shit. Oh, never mind. Nothing. All right. Let's get on to business. Main event. The match that we've been talking about all night long.
You okay?
You know, this stuff smells pretty good. JR, have a... Stuff smells... never mind. All right. World Wrestling Federation Championship on the line. He was actually the first one to come out.
He emerged from behind the candelabra.
Yes, he did. Still with this morphed music, which I actually liked. Actually sounded well in the arena. We finally will give you officially, it is a 6-pack Hell in a Cell match for the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Of course, you heard right there. Our first competitor has not held the title since he lost to the King of the Ring without even being pinned. And that is, of course, Triple H. We've got The Undertaker. We've got Rikishi. What do you think of him in this match?
Well, it made sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, it's just the 3 main events from Survivor Series all in this one match. Rikishi's, I mean, who else would you have here? The only 2 guys you could maybe say are Kane I guess Kane, Jericho, Benoit were kind of the next three.
Right.
But Kane and Benoit had really been on a title picture. Jericho had never really been in it since, April, so...
Yeah.
I thought Rikishi was in feuds with all these guys, pretty much. I mean, specifically Austin and Rock. Mm-hmm. So I thought it made perfect sense to have him here.
Yep.
And it was a good spot for him.
Yep.
Too bad he was wearing a big stupid diaper.
Yes, he is. His first title match since losing to Triple H back at No Mercy in 1999, and that is Stone Cold Steve Austin. His first pay-per-view title match. And in his first ever Hell in a Cell match, and what would end up being his only ever Hell in a Cell match, Rock. But who's the one, JR, that doesn't fit? It doesn't seem indicative of a Hell in a Cell match.
Little P. Diddy?
Haven't had a little country tinge.
That was a good one.
Since your boy's debut.
Hey, I saw the Gambler in concert, you know.
You did? That's right, you did tell me that. Well, there it is. You Decorated My Life, Kenny Rogers, 1980. Of course, Kurt Angle, your champion. Saw him earlier on.
Does Triple H think that's you? You decorated my room?
Yes. You decorated with spray paint. So here we go. Kurt Angle is in a match with 5 guys who have a combined...
We're not talking about the burgers.
a combined 16 World Wrestling Federation championships.
Yeah, this is big time. On the 11/27 Raw, Mick Foley scheduled the number 1 contenders match between Rock and Rikishi. Angle interfered in the match. Rikishi got DQ'd. Foley determined that due to all the interference and fighting between all these guys, there were 5 men who deserved a shot at Angle's gold. It made it happen inside the cell. And as we talked about, Vince McMahon returned the Raw the week before. Mm-hmm. Got in Foley's grill about putting all this top talent in such a dangerous situation. Him and Foley really duked it out, and Vince was going to each of the guys and asking them to step out of the match. And they're really concerned about what this may do to the buy rates and everything else. So I thought this is pretty well hyped going in. I thought the level of talent they had and the hype they put behind the cell stip all worked well. Let me ask you this, Scott. Outside of the 92 Rumble, let's take Rumbles out of it. Is this the most star-studded main event to date?
Yeah, I mean, let's think of multi-man matches. I mean, In Your House Final Four. I mean, Vader, Taker, Brett, and Steve. Although Steve at that point wasn't the level he is now.
Right, that's probably the closest. That's a good one. Canadian Stampede.
Yeah, although not everybody is loaded in that match. I mean, you got a lot of talent, but you don't have...
Right, you got Brett, Owen, Bulldog,
Road
Austin.
Warriors.
Yeah, Road Warriors.
Yeah. So, you really don't have anything multi in 98. 99? Not really.
I mean, you get the 6-pack, but this is more than that.
Yeah, and I mean, Hunter, Mick, and Steve at SummerSlam. No, this is... I mean, you're pretty much taking every single... The only 6 guys that are all at the same level...
Right.
And putting him in one match. There's
nobody else. Rikishi's like a half step behind, but...
Yeah.
Now, if you had... Yeah. I mean, the only way you could have made them better is Benoit instead of Rikishi. Or Kane. But I think Rikishi definitely fit here. I wouldn't take him out for that reason. What did you think of the Vince stuff? Did you think it felt forced?
Absolutely. The whole pulling the truck in, I hated that.
Well, not even in the match. I mean the storyline.
No, I don't think it was forced.
You didn't think it was like weird that all of a sudden he showed back up for the first time the week before the show, and now out of nowhere was all of a sudden concerned about safety of these guys?
I mean, it probably needed to add a little legitimacy to it.
I felt they needed to do more of a hype behind like Foley being a dangerous commissioner. I feel like they didn't focus on that enough. For a company that's pretty good with continuity, I feel like they didn't really follow through with that kind of stuff. Good with continuity at this point. I feel like they didn't really like foreshadow at all that Foley was getting guys hurt or that he was being reckless as a commissioner. I feel like it just comes out of nowhere. Like, I feel like they should have had a guy get it. Well, I guess they kind of did with Triple H almost dying, but I feel like they needed to do a little bit more if Foley maybe start with an undercard guy back in September, and then a mid-card guy in October goes down because of a match Foley made. And I think you need to build to it, and now it makes sense that Vince comes back and it's like, hey, you're getting guys hurt, and now you're putting 6 guys that are make this company money, and you're throwing them in the cell, this most dangerous match and everything else. All these guys hate each other. I feel like that maybe would have been more effective.
Yeah, I think because Foley was a babyface, I don't think they wanted to go too crazy with the.
Well, you make it incidental. You don't make it like he's doing it on purpose.
Right.
So you have a match, and you guys are going to wrestle in a ladder match tonight on Raw, or a tables match. Guy goes to a table, hurts his neck, he's out. And you don't even focus on it at the time. But then when Vince comes back, he can list through the guys. Like when Foley denies it, then Vince is like, well, look at this laundry list of guys you got fucked up because of you. And then you go from there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think it would add a little more depth. I feel like Vince just kind of comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden he can't.
Well, the sad thing is, JR, for the second consecutive year, the creative situation's kind of in a state of flux.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about that now. I mean, at the time Chris Kresge had left, and we really need to talk about Kevin about this because I'm curious what happened backstage, why Chris left. And Stephanie McMahon took over as head of creative. And, it wasn't really sure at first how much control she had. So I don't want to get too much into this because I think Kevin will go over it in depth and we'll get, no one's going to be better at telling us what it was than him. So we'll leave it at that. Chris Kresge now out of the picture. Stephanie McMahon now in charge of creative. And we'll get the lowdown later this week from Kev.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I don't think there was anybody there to really handle the attention to detail. And I think that caused a big gap in logic, and as you said, a gap in continuity for the storyline. The match is awesome, but I really do feel like the match itself was all about Austin and Triple H.
Well, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, because the camera, in my opinion, pretty much focused on the two of them. Just absolutely destroying each other.
Yeah. We should note this goes 32 minutes.
32-14.
Is there an easier match to book? Hey, here are 6 of our best guys. Here's a cell. Go take a half hour and do what you got to do.
Do something. Pretty much. The truck thing really annoyed me. I think it took a big hunk out of the match.
Do you think it ruined the flow?
Yes. But, again...
Do you think they needed the bump they did? Or do you think it was a gratuitous one like we talked about back in February?
No, it was gratuitous. I definitely don't think it was needed.
Especially with Taker doing it to Rikishi. That hasn't even really been a feud. Like, Austin doing it would have made more sense if Austin went up there and...
Or Rock.
Right.
Yeah.
I should have done a rock bottom off the cell through the truck. No, but yeah, I think Rock or Austin knocking him off through the truck would have made more sense than Taker doing it. Now, do you think... Although I guess it did make Taker look good for the first time in a while as far as like being a badass. Are you still of the belief, like we talked about in February, if you have to go to these lengths to protect a bump like this, it's not worth doing?
Exactly.
Do you feel this was less impressive than his dive off the cage at Fully Loaded? That one, he came off the cage and went full impact on his hands, knees, body on the mat. This was just a free fall.
He backflopped.
Yeah.
Onto what?
Look, it's still crazy. It's still crazy, but...
Yeah.
you never know. The timing and accuracy to pull that off, to make sure he landed correctly, is pretty crazy. But I'm still of the same belief as we talked about, both ourselves and with Kevin, from No Way Out, that if you're going to go through those lengths, is it really necessary to do?
Right. Yeah, it is kind of weird, and I think it was kind of unnecessary. But fortunately, you're dealing with 6 studs, and that includes Kurt, who re-picked up the pace, and the whole truck thing kind of is forgotten and doesn't ruin anything. And I think you're just left with just 6 guys who just bludgeon each other, and they battle onto those cars. And
talk about the importance of the Austin Rock showdown.
Well, it was a big deal. It was a big deal because it reestablishes the alpha dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Because, look, I'm dead serious in saying this. We say what we want about my fandom of Triple H, we all know who the two alpha dogs are. It's pretty clear. The alpha dogs are rocking Austin. There's no doubt about it. And you could say what you want.
They haven't really touched since I guess the end of '99,
or since Backlash.
Right? Well, I mean, they were involved in that little three-way feud heading into Survivor Series, so they were starting to feud a little bit at the end of '99.
Yeah, but this was pretty awesome.
Do you feel like this is the first time Austin was kind of back?
Yes, but again, without the spotlight totally on him, I don't think you really see it until a couple months from now.
Okay, but I mean even just wrestling-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a match with Benoit the night after Survivor Series.
I remember being pretty good.
Yeah, they went about 9 minutes. That was kind of maybe his first legit match back.
Yeah.
All right, let's quickly talk about Triple H coming back 2 weeks after getting nearly killed.
Stupid.
And how, that was awful, right?
Yeah, I mean, the car flips over, the whole roof flattens. You're thinking, if he's not dead, he's broken a lot of stuff, and he comes back 2 weeks later with 2 Band-Aids on his forehead.
Yeah, I mean, Stephanie gave the list of injuries, but basically said he was lucky to be alive. They could have done something way better. I mean, they should have done what they wanted to do at No Mercy and have him run over, like stuff Triple H in a car and run him over with another car or slam into him or something. They could have done something better than what they did. I mean, they could have had him just run down Triple H in the back like Austin got ran down or whatever. They could have found something better than dropping him from 30 feet in the air and flipping the car over and smashing it. It was awful.
Yeah, no, it was pretty stupid, and in my opinion, it takes away, kind of takes away from the legitimacy of the feud.
Do you feel
the feud does pick up? So
do you feel Taker dominated Angle again too much in this one?
I think the point of it kind of was for Taker to kind of escape. It's okay he doesn't have to pin all the guys or whatever, that kind of thing. But because I think he really Angle. He really sets himself apart these next 2 pay-per-views.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally upset about it because there's just so many guys in the match. And again, I don't think the focus was on anybody except the burgeoning, feud between Austin and Triple H. That's the big thing. I feel like the camera was on them 65% of the time, 70% of the time. So, no, I don't think it was as noticeable as it seemed.
All right,
as it may have seemed. I think it was more focusing on Austin and Triple H.
All right, let's do the Angle stock watch.
Okay. As
world champion, won at No Mercy. I would say he was trending kind of flat at Survivor Series. Where do you look at him now after the show? Has he kind of stayed the same? Is he looking shaky?
I think he's ticked up a bit. I mean, look, he won a 30-minute cell against 5 of the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 4 of the greatest of all time in Rikishi. And I'm not saying that to knock Rikishi, but he's obviously not the class of these other guys.
Do you like the way they're booking him as champion now? Because we've had 3
3
straight months where he's been involved in a title match, and it's ended because, something kind of shenanigan.
No. He's got to be established. Everyone knows he's a great wrestler. I think he kind of needs to be established as a little weaselly. But like I said, when we get to 2001 and get to these next 2 pay-per-view matches, we clearly see that Kurt Angle is indeed the real deal. And that gets reestablished when he's a babyface or when he turns in 2001. But of course, we'll get there.
All right, so let me ask you,
I think everything's fine. I think everything's fine.
Okay. So one final question I'm going to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you rank this with the other main events from 2000?
Well,
all right. Well, let me ask you this. We'll go this way.
Okay.
Is it better than the Rumble main event?
Now, is the Rumble main event the Rumble?
No.
Or the Street Fight?
Street Fight. Let's go through all the world title matches, the big matches.
It's not better than the Street Fight.
Okay. Is it better than the Cell at No Way Out?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Better than 16.
Yep. Better than Backlash?
A little bit better than Backlash.
Okay. Better than Judgment Day?
No.
All right. Clearly better than King of the Ring?
Yes.
Better than Rock Benoit?
Yes.
Better than the SummerSlam Triple Threat?
Yes.
Better than the Unforgiven 4-Way?
4-Way, yes.
Better than Rock Kurt?
Kurt, yes.
Obviously better than Survivor Series.
Yeah.
So, not bad. So you basically have it as a top 3 or 4 main event.
Yep.
Are there any other matches you would say are above it in this year? Any of the Benoit Jerichos? Any of the TLC / ladder matches? Triple H Jericho, Last Man Standing.
That's really good. I think the triangle
Benoit.
match. I think the triangle match at 16.
The table? The ladder match?
The ladder match.
Yep.
I think is it could be comparable. Was it Andrew? Was it Reish? One of our PTB Nation members said that. Cameron, I don't want to quote anybody if I'm wrong, but somebody on I think it was on the Facebook page, thought that the TLC at SummerSlam was overstated and not better.
We just went through this discussion at SummerSlam. It was Risha Morrison.
It was one of those guys. Yeah. And I half agree. So I would say that I think the only 2 matches this year that are better than the Cell is Triple H and Mick at the Rumble and Triple H and Rock at Judgment Day, the Iron Man.
So not even Triple H Jericho, Last Man Standing?
No.
Okay.
Just a little below.
Okay.
A little below.
All right, so you're putting this as a top 3 match of the year.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I think the brawling is great. I think the editing was good. Again, camera angles. Great job by Kevin Dunn that night, focusing on the perfect spots of the match.
Scott!
The real brutality, and focused on the real blood feud of the trio of guys, which was Austin and Triple H.
All right, well, there's your Armageddon review. Share your thoughts. I'm sorry, I just had such a busy week, and I forgot to put the feedback up, so I apologize. But share your thoughts on the Facebook page as to what you think, where this match ranks on a whole. So, Scott, as an overall, I thought the show was pretty good.
Yeah,
give it around a B+.
Yep.
With that epic main event, and then a pretty solid mid-card, wrapped up a lot of feuds, and now we have a long break before the 2001 Royal Rumble. As far as really getting some build in and getting some storylines going. So we'll see how much changes before we get to that show, which we'll talk about next week. Later this week, Wednesday night, we will have Kevin Kelly in the house. We're going to wrap up 2000 with him. We have our list of questions ready to go. Next Monday, we'll be reviewing Royal Rumble 2001. And then next Wednesday, we have headlines. We'll be previewing Hell in a Cell and Bound for Glory, Scott, coming up as well at the end of the month. We're going to have a couple special guests. We are going to have...
Bound for Glory is this Sunday.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to recap Bound for Glory.
Recap Bound for Glory.
Yes, we're going to recap Bound for Glory and also officially... we'll relay that news regarding you and Impact. So once we get there, but so yes, we'll be reviewing Bound for Glory, which is this Sunday, and we're going to have Greg Phillips on, one of our PTB Nation TNA experts, and the true TNA expert of all podcasting out there, Nate Milton, the Godfather. You've heard him, of course, on The Law. You've heard him on Review and Impact with John Pollock and Wei Ting, and of course, he has his own great show, The Kings of Sports, with Marcus and Alfred. And you can hear that each and every week on PlayStationNation.com.
I'm looking forward to that because I really want to pick the brains of Nate about what my pet peeves have been with Impact all year. I'm curious to see if you agree.
Yeah, Nate's a big TNA guy, so
looking forward to it.
We will have him on to break that show down as well a week from Wednesday. So some big guests coming up, some big shows coming up as well. So for Scott, I am Justin. PTB Nation, have a great next couple of days. We'll talk to you Wednesday night with KK in the house. Until then, take care.
I didn't want to say this on the air, but since left the spot.
Well, I'll tell you this much. It looks like fucking Santa's Winter Wonderland in my house because there's this fucking white powder all over the floor and everything else. So.
Yeah, white powder.
I'm going to call the hospital now and see what's going on.
Yeah, please do that. Lord only knows. 4 hours and all.
It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel